Oh, give me a nod when you're ready.
I know my name, yeah. I was like, that's the bit I do know.
Hi, I'm Joanna Rowsell, and I'm here today to talk to British men's singles #1, Toby Penty.
I'm here today to have a conversation with Jo Rowsell, who is double Olympic track cycling champion.
So it's going to be really exciting. Probably a lot of advice to share, hopefully, a lot of sort of stories to talk about, but also both having alopecia, hopefully a lot to talk about in that area as well.
Hopefully can pass on some advice both about that and about our sporting experiences. Cool. So how did you get into cycling? And then also, when did you know you were good?
Oh, good question. I was actually talent spotted as a teenager. When I was about 15 at secondary school, British Cycling were on the lookout to get more people into cycling, particularly more girls. And they came to my school, they did some talent ID tests on the playing field. I never thought I could be a good cyclist, but the day they came, it happened to be a nice sunny day.
Perfect
and
day.
It happened to coincide with a double maths lesson. So it's like double maths or like out on the playing field, which really was sort of my main reason for going, to be honest. In answer to your question, when did I know I was good? Initially, thought I was very bad. So everyone on these training camps was already quite an established cyclist. So I was like a complete novice, but I'd sort of come through this sort of talent ID program. The second training camp we had was track cycling. I was completely horrified to hear that the bikes have got no brakes and a fixed gear, so you can't stop pedalling. And I was just like, this is not okay. Like, why did nobody tell me this? My very first lap of a velodrome, I rode around the bottom of the track really, really slowly. I was terrified about the no brakes thing. That really hadn't got over that. Terrified about the fact it was a fixed gear, so you couldn't freewheel. So I did one lap right at the very bottom, so on the flat bit, not even on the banking. Really slow, came in to stop, panicked, grabbed the railing with both hands. My front wheel twisted round and I came smacking down to the floor. So it was a very slow crash, but I had bruises all up my side. So that was lap 1 of a velodrome for me. My aim to begin with was like try and not be last.
Yeah.
And then it was like try and not be second to last, and just gradually sort of progressed. And then in my second year, so 2005, I became national champion for under 18s. Okay. After that, I got on the junior national squad, and then I got on the senior squad as an 18-year-old. So I finished school at 18 and moved straight to Manchester to be a full-time cyclist. So how about you? How did you get into badminton? What sort of age?
So my dad helped run like the local leisure centre where the local club was, and my brother played. So I was kind of forced along to start with. I'm not going to say it was love at first sight or anything like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like it at first. I was still playing football, tennis, athletics, all those sort of sports. And then I don't really remember why I was coaxed back to playing, but I remember coming back and I could actually hit the shuttle from the far end of one side to the other end, which I couldn't do before.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so it was a lot better than what it was before, before I could only just get it over the net. So from there, I went to kind of a sort of stronger club in Wimbledon, developed from there, kind of met a lot of similar age people.
Yeah.
And it kind of built up year on year from there. And it was a similar progression to you in that I was definitely one of the worst players. Oh. And as time went by, it was almost, like you said, like picking people off at a time. And then, I wouldn't say in terms of feeling like I'd got any good until I was probably under 17 sort of level, 16 years old. I started to beat a few England players, and it was almost like beat one, then try and beat the next one, then try and beat the next one. And I finished my A-levels. I begged my parents after my GCSEs, let me go full-time, I can do it. And I remember them saying, if you win the under-19 nationals, we'll let you go full-time. Unfortunately, I lost in the semis. I lost in setting in the third game. Still to this day, got a dodgy line call that last set as well. So I'm still bitter about that one. So I finished my A-levels, and then I went full-time a year at home, training at home, and then I went to the National Centre in Milton Keynes after that. And then it was one step at a time after that.
So, who were your sporting heroes growing up and why?
You know what, at the time, I wouldn't say when I was really young I had many sporting heroes.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I would say the people I looked up to were the people I trained with who are older than me. Heroes is maybe a strong word. I don't want to give them that much credit. But people that I really looked up to, Raj Youssef, who was the top singles player, for such a long time, Chris Langridge, and these guys have then become my friends as well. And it's it was kind of a bit of a surreal thing, because I remember when I was about 12 or 13 playing for Surrey, and Chris had got I remember he'd got one of his first caps for England, and I remember reading about it. I didn't really know him at the time, but then kind of 6, 7, 8 years on to actually know these guys and be training alongside them and stuff, and now to call them like very close friends. How about yourself?
It was sort of when I first got into the sport. So Athens Olympics in 2004, definitely really enjoyed watching the track cycling there, and definitely Chris Hoy and Bradley Wiggins. They were the big names back then. And it's a similar story. Like now, they're people that ended up going to London and Rio Olympics with, which is quite strange. Fast forward a few years and suddenly I was on the Olympic teams with both of them. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
What's it like commentating on people who you were riding with in the past?
That's a good question. So that is really difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine that being quite hard.
Brilliant when they're winning, that's easy, because you're like, this is fantastic, this is a new record, this is an amazing gold medal. Really difficult when someone doesn't win that I'm either friends with or was teammates with, because I'm thinking about their parents watching it on TV, I'm thinking about their families, I'm thinking about them watching it back later, and I'm thinking, I need to try and be like objective here as a commentator, but actually that's my friend that I sort of want to defend their performance if it perhaps wasn't as good. So I find it quite difficult to sort of do that critical analysis of people that I'm friends with. It's fine for people that I don't know, because that's easy. I can sit there and say, oh, that wasn't a very good ride. But no, people that I was teammates with in Rio, it's far easier for me if they just win, because that is a lot easier to talk about than anything
I'd love to do the commentary stuff, but I've always thought like, it must be so much easier commentating on people who you don't know than people you do know who are friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I also know that straight away on Twitter I'll get criticism. It's like, well, that wasn't a very fair comment, or you got that wrong. So
can't please everyone.
Yeah, no, exactly. You can't please everybody.
If you weren't a sports person, what would you have done for a career?
Good question. So at school I was always quite academic. Like I wouldn't have even put myself in the sporty category really, which sounds a bit daft saying that now, but that was how I felt. So I wanted to go to uni. I wanted to do a science degree. I didn't really know when I was younger, but I'm actually now at uni doing a degree. So after I retired after Rio, I gone to uni as a mature student following a gap decade. So 10 years older than everyone else. And I'm doing a degree in human biology. And I've got a place to study medicine from September to be a doctor. I think I want to be a GP. Everyone always thinks I want to do sports medicine. I'm kind of interested in psychiatry as well.
The whole mental aspect's gone on massively. I mean, especially mental health in general now as well.
Even like 5-10 years ago, I think it's so different to where it is now.
I think sport is like 50% physical, 50% psychological.
Yeah, definitely. And the higher you get, the more mental it gets. It took me a lot of time to realise that, but that's definitely the case.
Yeah, I think definitely back a few years ago when I was starting, it was almost like, well, you should be able to deal with your nerves. Like, don't make a fuss about it, and you should be able to cope with the pressure. And actually, you sort of filter people out over the years that perhaps haven't got that naturally. But if you sort of almost train that in the same way that you're training everything else, you can make huge gains.
My development, I kind of went from being an okay junior to being, within the space of 3 years, like probably number 2 in England. And it was a mad jump. I was like, whoa, what's going on? So I think especially for the younger players coming up, I mean, badminton as well, is because you're in such a close, confined space with other people you're playing against in a 1v1 or a 2v2 situation, that it's very different like that. The mental games are massive. I think looking back on it, the best thing I had was I had a coach in Kenneth Jonassen, who's now the Danish head coach, he had so much experience and he took so much time with me that it helped a lot. And if there was one thing, if I had not a regret, but if I had one wish, is that I would have had a lot longer to work with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think someone that you can be honest with is key. And I think someone that gets what motivates you, because I think different people are motivated by different things. Back sort of years ago towards the start of my career, it was almost like, this is the way we do things and that's it. But actually, if you can change the way you work with different people, I think that's
the challenge as a coach, is not to just stick to what you know as a coach, but to need to search different avenues to get the best out of my players or my cyclists or whoever it is.
So how about you? What are your sort of, did you have any plans outside of sports?
Yeah, I wanted to be a journalist when I was younger. I like yourself, I always, especially my parents, thought I was going to be the academic one and my brother was going to be the sporty one.
Yeah.
So now it turned out I was the sporty one and my brother actually ended up doing a qualification in journalism. It's all kind of gone full circle. Since I started playing badminton kind of properly from 16 onwards, I knew, one, I wanted to play full time. And then after that, I wanted to be involved in the sport some other way afterwards. I really enjoy the coaching side. Yeah. I'd also love to commentate on it as well. I've got a passion about it, and I really enjoy the finer details of it, especially at the elite level. So,
I think when you are that involved, like, you're an expert and you don't even realise how much of an expert you are until you find yourself explaining it to other people, whether it's in a commentary sort of situation or a coaching situation. So you've got that wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, and also sport like badminton, there are so many different ways you can get better and so many different things you can improve on. And I think that's the thing I like, especially tactically and technically.
there's not kind of just one way to skin a cat. It's a lot of different sort of ways you can look at it, and me explaining it has made me see there are different ways, and there's not just one way of doing it. So I'm sure it's like every sport, it's always evolving, and that's kind of the nice challenge with it, I guess.
So what's the best advice you've ever received in your career? It's a big question. Nailed that.
I'd say that the most simple piece of advice, but the one that I think is best, is just to listen to the advice that you do get. And whether that be on court or away from the court, is just... Some people are good at talking, but the people who are good at listening are the ones who often go a lot further. It was sort of about sort of focusing on what you can control. So I think for us in cycling, it'd be easy to sit. We sort of have qualification rounds, so each team will get up individually and try and record a time for the distance. And it's easy to sit there and see everyone else's times and then sort of overthink and think, oh God, can we go that fast, can't we? But we were sort of told to like focus just on ourselves. And I think it's very easy in a competition to think, how fast is everyone else going to ride? But actually, we can't affect how fast they're going to ride. They could break the world record by 10 seconds, and you know what? Well done them. All we can do is go as fast as we can go. It's interesting that you have different factors, because obviously in badminton, it is literally you have the guy on the other side of the court. And like you said, you can only control the controllables. You can only control your game. And try and have some impact on his. In a sport like badminton, it's like you don't know where you're at until you get on court and play. So it's very different in that respect, I guess. We can do a lot of sort of modelling, but also on race day, if it's like particularly good conditions, like particularly low air pressure, which you can get if there's been a storm, or particularly hot, like the times will be a lot quicker. And we have to pick our gear before we race, because it's a fixed gear on the track bike. And if a team goes really fast, you start thinking, is that because the conditions are really fast, and should we gear up? Should we change the gear that we've been training on for the last however many months and actually just change it all on race day? So it's sort of that balance between responding to the conditions, but also trying to do what you know works for you. So what was the highlight of your career? So I think it's hard to sort of say anything apart from the London Olympics. That was the big one. It was my first Olympic Games. Home games, home crowd. We went in as the current world champions and world record holders. Must be feeling pretty good.
So, we got to the final, and everyone's like, you're dead certain to win here. But we have, so it's a team of 3 here in London. It actually went up to a team of 4 in Rio. But we actually had 4 girls there, so you always have like an extra person as a reserve. And they don't have to select the team until an hour to go. So to be honest, up until that moment, I hadn't even really thought about winning gold or not. I'd really thought about trying to be in the teams. Is there a certain point in the race where you're like, okay, we're in a good spot here? We're 7/10 up on the American team, which is a really good gap. This is an event that can be won in like tenths of a second. The only gauge we've got is the crowd are going absolutely insane. I remember thinking, nobody fall off. Which is a strange thing to be thinking of a lap to go of the Olympic final. But I remember thinking, like, we've got this now. This is a lap to go now. We literally have to stay upright. That was pretty good. So how about you? What would be your career highlight? So far, probably the Scottish Open in 2017. So this was my first and only Grand Prix title victory. Most of this tournament, you can't see it now because I've actually taken the strapping off, but my whole hamstring was strapped up. I strained my hamstring about 3 or 4 rounds before. So on my lunge leg, I was basically playing with one leg for a lot of it. And I remember 2 or 3 rounds before literally thinking if he played more drop shots, I'm out. But luckily it all worked out okay. And I was just all in at this point, just attacking, like going aggressive, because I knew if I sat back, that wasn't my style, wasn't the way to play. But I just remember thinking one at a time. And obviously you've got Nathan Robertson there from Athens. He won the silver in Athens in the mix, and you've got Anthony Clark next to him, who was his old doubles partner. I just remember in this tournament in general, like, not overthinking anything. I remember I was just playing, like, especially once the injury came, I was playing so freely, especially with my attacking shots. The racket just felt so loose and the shuttle felt so big. I'm tall, I'm left-handed, so for me, attacking style, a lot of steep shots down is how I'm playing a lot. So when I'm playing close to the lines, I know I'm going to have good chances to score points. So I remember this, so it was just a lot of just smashing here, a lot of smashing, and eventually I get the one here, I think it is, And that's to win on a kill like that is just the perfect way to have it. I saw it and I was like, right, this is it. Had it. It was just shock, because at the time I didn't think necessarily I was at the level to win that tournament. I came in, I think I was seeded 15. I think there were 16 seeds. So I knew I was competitive against everyone in the tournament, but I'd never really put it together all the time. Okay, so this says quote. So what's this going to be? We've got an Instagram post here by you. It says, been a tough period since April. Watched day by day a different person looking back in the mirror, leading all the way up to World Champs in August. I just want to say, having never gone through a mental challenge like this, that although my issues are visually easy to see, we are all dealing with challenges and difficulties in life. As an athlete, it seems most keep it hidden away or just press it down as much as possible. All I can say is talk about your problems. Don't be afraid to shed a few tears if needed. I'm almost 99% sure you'll feel better for it. I still miss the guy in this picture, although I'm trying to keep the smiles and the thumbs up as much as possible. So how did you feel writing that post? Do you think social media has been a sort of positive thing for you?
I would say it's been a positive and a negative.
Okay.
I would say positive in things like that, in being able to kind of talk about how I feel more, and kind of more in an open way that I can address a lot of people at once.
Yeah. You're not pigeonholed into questions. You can.
Yeah, and also, I mean, probably similar to like when someone asks you about your sport or how you're doing, you just get used to just doing automatic responses, especially with people you maybe don't know as well. It was hard to kind of speak about these things one-on-one to every person without it getting quite deep.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, a lot of the time, I just want to keep it quite lighthearted.
Yeah.
So this was a chance to kind of speak a bit more openly and honestly about things. I mean, going back to sort of November 2018 was when my alopecia started. And I remember it just being a tiny little hole like in the back of my head.
Yeah.
I mean, move that forward towards April when I was, whether it be training sessions, tournaments, I'd be having a shower and literally my hair would be falling out, like almost like patting a dog. And like you'd look at your hand and there'd just be like tons of hair and you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And the shock of that and stuff. So remember at this time just being like, I need to address how I feel, and I need to be more honest with myself and everyone around. And this was the best way to do it, I would say. Yeah.
I find that sort of it's not easy to be open and talk, but actually sometimes the more open you are about something, the easier it gets, because I think sometimes people are like, do I ask a question? Do I say something? Don't I?
Yeah.
So this, like you're saying, it sort of addresses everyone in a wanna, and you can sort of say what you want to say.
A lot of the time people, when I shaved my head off and stuff, and that wasn't the worst. The worst part was when like the eyelashes and the eyebrows were going from sort of April to August.
Yeah.
Maybe even later than that, September time. And people would go, oh, you look great that way. And you're going, and I know they mean it in a nice way.
Yeah.
But you're kind of going like, please don't say that because it doesn't help. Yeah. And I know you're trying to be nice, but I've got so much anger when you say that inside because I can be honest enough to say I like the way I looked before.
Yeah.
And my hair fell out and stuff like that. And I think that's what made it worse. So I think for me saying that was like, listen, I do miss how I did look, and it is still taking some time to get used to, but I will get there.
Yeah.
But it's just going to take time.
Yeah. I think the honesty is really good. Because like you say, I think people find it difficult to say the right thing. And I found a lot of people say to me, like, almost like, what happened? Like, what caused it? And it's like, it's almost blaming it on me. And they're saying, like, what did you do? Or what were you stressed about or something? And it's, and it is, I find that quite an awkward question because I'm a bit like, what, I haven't really got an answer to that. But they almost want to pin it on something. So that can be quite difficult.
And I was struggling probably a little bit looking back with anxiety around the end of 2018 time, but I'd kind of got over that, and I didn't really feel that was stemming what was going on with the alopecia and stuff like that. It was hard then to not answer back going, oh, I was stressed or something like that, or people to mention that, and it's going like, no, I wasn't stressed, this just happened. That was also the trickiest part, was the unknowing. That I think that's definitely been the part I've struggled to come to terms with the most, is the unknowing of, will my hair come back? What does the future look like in terms of these sort of things? But once I've started to come to terms with that, that's kind of set me at ease a lot more, I would say. Yeah.
Have you been anywhere else for support, like any sort of charities or support groups, or have you sort of just used your natural support network?
Like for me, it was hard to open up about it for a long time. Like even my mum would speak about it, and as soon as she said the word alopecia, I just didn't want to talk about it for a while.
I completely understand that.
But I've been very lucky to, I've got some very good friends, very close friends who have helped me a lot. Like I speak quite honestly about it now. Like I've had the micropigmentation on my head. Yeah. And that's helped me massively to start with. The eyebrows are next, coming soon. Yeah. Eventually I'd love to go down that route where I meet with other people who have, a lot more who have gone through a similar thing and discuss about it more, because messages I've had on Instagram, people going, I'm actually going through the same thing and stuff. And you know, you as a collective, we have to be there to help each other, you know, when we're going through things like this.
I think you can feel like it's just you as well. And especially if you're not met anybody else with the condition. Especially with women, a lot of people hide it under a wig, like I do. So you don't see it as much, and you think, you know, you're the only one this is happening to. So I think sometimes realising that it does happen to people. But it's that question, like you said before, like you sort of want to know why, and there isn't really an answer to that.
And I guess for you, because it happened for you when you were a lot younger, right? So I guess, well, I mean, at that age, the questions you're probably asking yourself as to why this is happening.
In hindsight, it's almost easier at happening at that age. Like it doesn't feel like it at the time as a 10-year-old going to school, crying to my parents saying, you know, why is this happening to me, sort of thing. But in general, the people that I've met, almost the people that it's happened to younger, you sort of got more time to adapt. Time is a great healer, really. Bit of a cliche, but it does help. And I think it's that the initial change is the worst bit. And so I think I'm going to sort of say it does get easier because you do sort of adapt, like people are adaptable.
And sometimes I do forget how soon it's not been that long. It's not even been, basically, since I actually shaved my hair off originally, it's not even been a year. Because obviously things like going to an Olympics are a one-off thing. So I've had to kind of put a lot of this to one side, try as best I can to concentrate on the badminton. And I kind of feel especially once this stage is over, I can maybe kind of spend a bit more time on myself and concentrate on it a bit more.
I think having that other focus is nice. I like you're saying with Olympic qualification and everything, and it sort of almost forces you to keep going because you can't just push pause on your life. So I think definitely something that worked for me to sort of keep going with everything else that was going on in my life, whether that be school or sport or whatever, and keep focusing on sort of the things that I can control. Because I think one of the most disheartening things is, like you're saying, you're seeing hair visibly falling out, having a shower, and you're like, I want to stop this and I can't. But so that's out of your control. But actually all your training and everything else, you can have a bit of ownership of that. So I think that's something that helped me to sort of have other focuses in my life.
Thanks very much. Okay, so this is also from your Instagram.
Okay.
My advice, don't let it be what defines you. You are in control of your decisions and your feelings. Never let anyone tell you you can't do something. Speak out support groups, get talking, and listening to how others have dealt with alopecia. There is a lot of support out there and activities to get involved in. Signing off with a little love heart as well. What kind of made this come about at the time you posted it? Would you say?
So this was Alopecia Awareness Month, which happens every September. So Alopecia UK are a charity that I'm involved with quite a lot now. I wasn't for a lot of years. I sort of shied away from that. But in more recent years, I have got a lot more involved with them. I think a lot of people are defined by their hair. You know, we naturally say like the blonde girl, the brunette, like it's just, it's words that people use. And I think that's something I found quite hard to begin with. Like I didn't want to be that girl with alopecia. But I also recognise that I can't help how other people define me. Like people are going to say that and whatever, I can't stop them, but I can help how I define myself. So I can let it be the biggest thing that dictates my day-to-day life, and I can let it hold me back, or I can be like, you know what, that's part of me, and I can carry on and do what I want to do. But it has been nice to get more involved now, and especially meeting people at sort of different stages of that journey. It's helped me as well. I try and give people practical advice. Everything from like dealing with sweat going in your eyes when you're doing sport, because eyebrows are actually quite useful, it turns out. So sort of
God
things
bless
like
the
that.
headband.
Oh, exactly. But no, I do sort of tell myself that was sort of my little thing. Like I can sit back and I can hide away and I can shut myself away. Or I could go and do the things I want to do. Really, people don't really look twice. Like I was so nervous the first time that people were going to stare, but they really, no one was bothered. Like it's more from yourself than from anybody else.
I think you realise when you go out is you the first thing you think about is what other people see. But actually, they don't. I mean, most people are living their own lives to see what you're doing. For me, anyway, it was kind of like taking the first step. Like even things like going on a night out, I'd kind of the biggest hurdle was going. Once I was out, it was okay. You know, and around friends and stuff like that. But the biggest hurdle was actually going, I'm not going to pull out at the last minute, or I'm not going to flake or something like that. And actually, just once I got out the door and went and was around people I knew and and friends and things like that, it was easy.
Yeah.
But it's always the initial step of everything, I think.
But after the London Olympics, it just went crazy. Like, obviously, I was on TV, on the podium, going out to millions of people worldwide, messages on social media, interview requests. It was all anybody wanted to talk about. Like, no one cared about the medal. They wanted to talk about alopecia. So I was like forced to face up with it and forced to deal with it.
Because sometimes it is kind of that little, it's there, but no one speaks about it. Yeah. So it's... I just think you've got to find your ways, haven't you, of best dealing with it, and also making because some people don't feel comfortable in certain situations, and that's fine.
Well, one of my best bits of advice that someone told me was that you're like a mirror. So the more closed and embarrassed I am, the more embarrassed someone else will be talking to me about it. And if I'm a bit shy and unsure, it makes everyone else shy and unsure and awkward. So if actually I'm not awkward and I'm like, you know what, this is me, everyone's like, okay, cool. And it just makes everyone else sort of at ease. I think it can be awkward with other people wanting to sort of, maybe it's a journalist asking a question, maybe it's someone just genuinely not understanding. So I think if I can be more open and chilled about it, it makes everyone else less awkward.
Okay, so what is next for you?
Oh, big question.
Yes, the big question.
Yeah.
The future.
Yeah. So I retired from elite cycling after Rio. Yeah. Retiring is a funny word to use when I was 28, but stopped competing internationally. I'm now completing a degree in human biology up at Manchester Met University, so I'm due to finish that soon in the coming months. Then I'm hoping to go to university from September to study medicine. I would love to be a doctor, ideally a GP, and it's quite an interesting thing. A lot of people with alopecia have had negative experiences with the healthcare professions, with people perhaps not understanding it fully or saying like it's only hair, and
frustrating, I would say.
Yeah. So hoping maybe that one little area I can be good in. Obviously, there's a lot to learn in the whole of medicine. That is what I want to do long term. Sort of medium term, I still work in commentary and cycling. I still do some coaching, and it's quite nice to still be involved in the sport, just the other side of the fence, and still I'm still passionate about it. I love all the stats and the figures. I love all the world records and all the different numbers and stuff. So we'll hopefully be working in Tokyo and sort of imparting some knowledge on all the viewers. Rio's not in such a good state.
Yeah, Rio's had a bit of a tough time, hasn't it? Yeah. And you can see the home Olympic one's been kept in slightly better nick. I've seen Chris Langridge's bronze one, but unfortunately, Chris, the gold one's a little bit more impressive.